max out on what you currently have, your current capability. That's not money based. You may be in pursuit of money, but it's not money based. Are you a person of your word? Are you a person that takes initiative? Are you creative? Are you resourceful? Are you trustworthy? Are you kind? Do you have a likable personality? Do people want to be around you? Do you exhaust every resource that you can possibly think of to help yourself? How good are you at finding ways to help others? Because that's what networking is. Networking is about giving and about receiving. What is it that you bring to the table that would make someone else care to exchange their efforts for yours? You have limited resources. You want to elevate your life. You want to make more money eventually. But of course, we all heard the term, you have to spend money to make money. But you feel like you don't have any money to spend. That means you have to make more money. That means you have to make yourself more valuable. So there's value and there's money. It takes value to make money. It takes time to create value. So what are you going to spend your time doing that's going to make you more valuable so that you can make more money? You yourself are a business, whether you acknowledge it. How does a business work?
I think, when you becoming like a man, when you see a beautiful woman, but it doesn't trigger you anymore.
That's part of it.
Can you, where does that come from, you think? What part in the brain gets developed to that point? What causes that? In what area do you mature enough to?
I think every area of life helps us to understand every area of life. Like they build upon each other. It's not linear. It's not this one thing helps you with this other one thing. It's like all of it helps you with all of it.
Right.
So I think time and experiences. When you're younger, you just have a different perspective on life, typically. And as you age, hopefully you don't just get older, but you also grow up. And so the things that were appealing to you when you were younger don't appeal to you so much anymore. Or at least not for the same reasons. Like women. Before it was just about being cute. Now it's about who's going to add to my life. Who sees the vision? Whose vision do I see? How do we complement one another? As opposed to just seeing someone who's physically attractive, and for that and that alone, you become attracted. Because in that conversation, it wasn't a matter of whether or not the woman was attractive. It was just a matter of you being interested in entertaining anything but a glance at this person, acknowledging that they're very attractive, pretty, what have you. But it doesn't arouse you. It's not it's nothing to lean into. It's solely an observation. And then you move forward. So I think life, time, experience, having the opportunity to grow up and actually doing it becomes noticeable when things that were once appealing to you don't appeal to you anymore.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing, man.
It is. It is. At some point, it's no longer, I want a girl. When you buy it, I want a car. I want a car so I can get the girl. Now it's more like, what's my purpose? What do I really want to be spending the majority of my time in my life over the next 10 years doing? I want a house. I want multiple houses. I want to start securing my future. And I want to create a network of people who are like-minded, even-spirited individuals where we can help one another pursue our goals in a way that's real, not in a way that's fabricated. And not solely based on materialistic gain or ego.
Yeah.
Tom.
Are there any things, because I feel like you grow up a little bit faster than people I know. Things that interested you in your 20s that are like when you're in your 30s looking back, you're like, dang, I can't even fathom that I entertained this.
Being a rapper.
Just a rapper or just all from an artist?
Being a rapper. I don't think we ever stop being artists. We find other ways to create in some shape, form, or fashion. So I wouldn't say being an artist, but being a rapper for sure. Still entertaining that idea in a real way. Not just treating it like a passion project, but really considering a career as a rapper. That changed. The emotional attachment was still there.
Do you think one can train their capability? Or is that something that's kind of something you're born with?
Definitely train yourself to be more. It's like going to the gym. Can you get stronger? Yes. You can get stronger in every aspect of your life. You can build more courage. You can build more dignity. You can improve your level of integrity. You can become more respectful. You can become kinder. You can become... You can gather more foresight through experience. You can become smarter if you study. So yeah, definitely people, that's one of the great gifts of life, that tomorrow we can wake up and decide to be someone completely different from the person that we were today and grow in that direction. So definitely you can train yourself to do almost anything, if we look at it from that perspective. Definitely.
You think enough people realize that?
Realize that meaning that it's there, or realize it meaning making it real?
The first.
No. If everyone is not realizing that, then enough people are not realizing that. Because if we all acknowledged our potential, the world would be different.
I agree, definitely.
So, no, there's not enough people. The objective is to get the best out of everyone and out of ourselves. So, if that's not the case, which is not, then no, there's not enough of it happening.
Wouldn't you, before you wake up and trying to be someone else, have to believe that you're someone else first before you do it? Because you have this this change and progression where people tell you about like, all right, you gotta first sort of start changing the feeling before you start taking action? Or do you believe, because some people also believe you gotta take action and then you'll feel different?
Depends on the person.
How do you gauge that?
You don't. They do.
So it's not like one size fits all.
Nothing is. Well, very few things are. Very few things are one size fit all. So you know, different people are different. They're packaged differently. They come with. People carry different baggage. People experience the same things differently. Conceptually, is it the same? Yes. You can pretty much put it in the same 5, 6 to 10 buckets. Everyone's quote unquote concern. But how they experience it to the smallest detail is different. How they react to it on that level is different too. Conceptually, it's the same. You either running from it or you fixing it. You either running from it, running toward it, or standing still, pretty much. And standing still, you can look at it or you can look away from it. You can look straight at it, you can turn around so you can't see it at all, or you can make sure that you keep it in your periphery or somewhere.
Question that I have was, how can one elevate their life while currently not having a lot of financial means? Meaning certain courses are too expensive, certain upgrades in lifestyle are too expensive, certain maneuvers are just outside the budget. How can one transcend that, surpass that, or deal with that?
Max out on what you currently have. Your current capability. And that's not money based. It may be money. You may be in pursuit of money, but it's not money based. Are you a person of your word? Are you a person that takes initiative? Are you creative? Are you resourceful? Are you trustworthy? Are you kind? Do you have a likable personality? Do people want to be around you? Right? Do you exhaust every resource that you can possibly think of to help yourself? How good are you at finding ways to help others? Because that's what networking is. Networking is about giving, not about receiving. What is it that you bring to the table that would make someone else care to exchange their efforts for yours? And are you good at what you bring to the table? That would make a person want to continue working alongside you. How much value do you bring to the market? Oftentimes we think about the time we've dedicated to trying to bring value to the market. But the market doesn't pay you for your time. That's a mistake a lot of people make, thinking that the market pays you for your time. It doesn't. That's why one person can make $10 an hour and another person can make $1,000 an hour. It's not the time. It's the value of your time. If you're not bringing anything valuable to the market, then your time doesn't really mean anything in the market. There are consultants that charge $10,000 an hour. grow. We can all change. We can all develop. So, are we interested in developing? Part of developing is understanding what's valuable and what isn't, so that we can not only work on our skill set, but work on our elevator pitch. And when we see something happening in the market, or we see something changing in the market, that actually provides real value and is likely to stay around, what do we do? How do we react to it? How do we respond to it? Hopefully we respond and not react. React is like a knee jerk. But our response is a calculated decision as to how we are going to acknowledge this observation that we're making in a way that's conducive to the lifestyle that we want to live. And oftentimes that doesn't happen due to fear. So how do we either rid ourselves of that fear or do it scared? Get in motion even though we may be afraid. And constantly reach up. A lot of times when things happen that are unexpected and it makes us feel uncomfortable, a lot of people reach down. Mom is still alive, we can always go back home. Something happens at the job that you don't expect. And mom's like, well, you always come back here. And you're like, yeah, I know, thanks. I'm gonna take you up on it. Instead of saying, hey, I put in my 2 weeks notice, I put in my 4 week notice, I put in my 6 week notice. Let me try to figure something else out. In fact, let me try to do that before I put in my notice. Let me try to figure something else out while I keep what I have afloat and look for something better. Not necessarily something that pays you more, but something that suits you more beyond paycheck. So the objective is understanding change is inevitable, but not only externally, internally as well.
I think that's sort of answers the question.
Why sort of? What's missing?
Because the question was, how can I, with limited resources, still elevate? Mm-hmm. Oh, you answered that.
No. You have limited resources. You want to elevate your life. You want to make more money eventually. But of course, we all heard the term, you have to spend money to make money. But you feel like you don't have any money to spend. That means you have to make more money. Right? That means you have to make yourself more valuable. So there's value and there's money. It takes value to make money. It takes time to create value. So what are you going to spend your time doing that's going to make you more valuable so that you can make more money?
Would you reckon someone doing market research before to truly understand where the market is at, the value set in the market? How do you assess what's valuable?
I definitely think everyone in business should be doing market research.
But not everybody's like a business person. People also, creative people are also in business, but they don't consider themselves business people.
perhaps that's a mistake. What does it mean not to be a business person? Not to like business. Not to prefer to spend your time thinking about it.
I think not it being your main occupation.
But you choose your occupation.
Mm-hmm. But one rather being choosing to do elsewhere.
But regardless to what you do, you work for a corporation. So it would benefit you to be business-minded. Doctors work for corporations, lawyers, painters. Even if it's your own organization, it's still an organization. So to say that a person is not a business person, or to even think that because a person doesn't identify as a business person, that they should spend a minimal amount of their time on business. It makes sense if you don't care how you live. If you're cool being homeless, not eating every day, not having a healthy, balanced diet, not making sure that your health is intact to the best of your ability, and just spending every waking hour trying to create something artistic or seemingly artistic. And I think it's great. But if that's not the case, you're a business person.
And you should do market research.
And you should do market research because you're a business person. You yourself are a business. Whether you acknowledge it. How does a business work? Someone creates a business. They make an investment within that business. Excuse me. In hopes that the business will improve, operate at a profit, so that they can then make money off their investment. Right? What happens with a person? Society, your mother and your father create you. You become an entity in society. You're not just your mother's child. You have a birth certificate, and you will have a death certificate. Right? Your birth certificate can be perceived as the opening of a business. Now what does society do? Make an investment in you as you grow. We could even look at this on the government level. The government is a large organization. If they create an opportunity for you to become a productive citizen in the society, whether your parents have the means or they don't. If your parents have the means to do it, great. They make sure that the schools are there. They make sure that the hospitals are there. They make sure that the churches or places of worship are there. They make sure that you have access to healthy food. If your mom or your father doesn't have the means, then they provide welfare. That's literally an investment in you. That's literally money you pick up twice a month or monthly, depending on where you live. From that investment that's made in you, the hope is you will become worthy. Worthy meaning a person of enough value to where you can provide a return on that investment. How do you provide a return on an investment? You become a productive citizen of society. What does that mean? That means you find a way, as you age, to provide value to the marketplace. In return, that marketplace, in return, your monetary value grows. The more your monetary value grows, the more of a support system you become for that society. It's literally how business operates. Is your bank account your bank account?
It's the banks.
What else?
I'm assuming the governments.
How so?
Because they can't take it also.
Yeah, but how else?
You pay taxes.
So what does that mean? Is your money really your money?
Partially.
Like a business. I cashed in on you, made the investment throughout your life. You eventually became a productive citizen, opened up a bank account. Within that bank account, you put money. Right? That money is not your money. That money is the return on my investment. When do I cash in on it?
When?
When you pay taxes. That's the same as a business. I see a business, we support it, it grows, right? How do we support it? We buy stocks. The money that we put into that organization via stocks is an investment. Utilizing that money, that organization grows. It starts to make a lot of money. We then, understanding that that organization is profitable, receive a kickback in the form of dividends. What's the difference between that and you? As an investor, I invest in Apple. Apple gives me a return on my investment.
And as the government invests in you.
As an investor, the government invests in you. You give the government a return on the investment. So whether you want to think of yourself as a business person or an artist, you are a business. It's up to you to decide if you want to cash in on yourself or not, or you just want to feed the government.
It's unfortunate they don't really teach a lot of business in art school.
No. A school is a business too.
Because the less you know about business as an artist, the more businesses can make off of artists. You know?
No.
You don't think so?
School itself is a business. Every school is a business. Every individual school is a business. Education is an industry that makes money. The objective of, if we look at a country as a business, which it is, right? If you have a country, you have leaders, you have upper management, you have middle management, you have lower management, and then you have the workers, the operating level. Right? That's the same thing in society. You have people, we're all at the lower level, right? As people, right? You have lower management, that's police. You have middle management, that's your province or your state level. Politicians. Then you have upper management, that's the federal level. That's the nation level, right? Country level. Politicians, right? Or upper management, middle management, lower management, operating level. operate in accordance. So if you have, what part of an organization cares for the well-being of the employee, cares to teach them, cares to make sure that they're heard, cares to make sure that a culture is implemented that supports them. That part of an organization is known as HR, human resources. Right? There are multiple pillars in HR. One of them is training, learning and development. Right? If you look at a society, where does the culture come from? The people. Right? Who is responsible for making sure that those people kind of feel heard, acknowledged, cared for, etc. Right? You have government officials that have put certain pillars in place to make sure that people feel that way, to make sure that a community is built. Right? What's a part of that community? Education, schools. So you have learning development within an organization, learning development within the community. So there's a parallel on both sides. And it's that same way as you climb the ladder. Here, on the business side, there's an HR department. And then on the countryside, there's a community. HR says, okay, how can we make it so that this person wants to be here? Okay, well, let's design the office a certain way. Let's create flexible working hours. Let's create more of like a home environment when a person comes to work. Let's create a certain dress code. Right? Let's create certain morals, certain values within the organization that we hold employees to. That's the same thing as a community. Right? Where do you get your values and your principles from? Typically from a church. Right? Where do you get that informs how, like what kind of community you want to have? Is this going to be a laid-back community? Is it going to be how are we going to dress? How are we going to speak? That all comes from what you believe in. Right? What are we going to eat in this community? What kind of food are we going to offer in these offices? Right? If we have a cafeteria, we're offering like pizzas. Or we're offering salads. Supermarket in the community. What are we offering? Right? What are we teaching? Learning and development within a business. What are we teaching? Learning is schools within a country, within a community. Excuse me. How are we ensuring the well-being of our people here at an organization? HR. How are we ensuring the well-being of our people here within the community? Hospital. Hospital and police department. HR has that too. They have a disciplinary aspect, a disciplinary pillar to their business unit. They're parallels. But we think we only operate within the business when we go to work. And that's not true. You are business, period. You operate within the business, period. Whether you like it or not, that's for you to decide.
I think that's also not really relevant.
It is relevant because it could potentially inform how you behave in the space.
In that sense, all right.
Because people only do things for one reason. Because they feel like it. That's it. Everything else is sales. Trying to make a person feel like it. Or trying to make them not feel like it. So if you want to structure a society in a way that's conducive to where you want to take the society, are you necessarily wrong? Because to say what's right or what's wrong is subjective. If I want to make sure that my society becomes the #1 society in the world, I need to make sure that to the best of my ability, it's a well-oiled machine. What does that look like? Some people say, okay, there's some pieces in that puzzle or certain aspects of that process that don't serve the people in that portion of the process as well as it supports the people in another portion or at another step in the process. Okay? But do we have parameters in place that help to support the potential that a person has at any point in the process to transition from one point to another point? Yes. So what exactly is the problem? Racism could be a problem. Ageism could be a problem. Colorism could be a problem. Homophobia could be a problem. Right? So now do we have parameters in place for that? Should we have parameters in place for that? And then the conversation progresses. But it's all a business. Your country is selling to you at all times. Your city is selling to you. Literally. There are literally business plans for cities. Literally. There's literally a layout for cities. When America created the car and they decided that they wanted to have an automotive industry be a very prominent industry in the world, especially within their country, they made certain cities driving cities. There is no store 5 minutes away that you can walk to. You want to walk to the store, that's going to take you 40 minutes. You can drive in 7 minutes. But if you want to walk, you must really want to go for a walk. Because it's going to turn into a real walk. And there's no sidewalks. Because it's a driving city. Because the decision was to make sure that the automotive industry within the United States became a booming industry. So they're literally objectives to make it so, business objectives, to make it so that the layout of the city is a certain way. It operates a certain way. And you don't have to tell people how to move and how to do things verbally. You just structure the city in a certain way. For example, in Amsterdam, all businesses open pretty much around the same time, and all businesses pretty much close around the same time. So what does that mean? Saturday is going to be hectic. Because any errands, anything that you want to do during the week, you have to do it that day. You can't say, I'm going to go after work, because after work, everything is closed. We don't have to tell you that. We don't have to say, put a sign outside to say, go shopping on Saturdays. We just create certain rules and regulations that control your actions. Learn how to move people around without touching. We see it around us every day. So, again, it doesn't matter. Well, it matters that you think that you're not a business person, or someone thinks that they're not a business person. And it is relevant. It's very relevant to, when I say it doesn't matter, or excuse me, that it does matter, it matters to society at large. And when I say it's relevant, I mean personally, it's relevant to you. It changes the reality because it changes how you stand in the situation. It doesn't change the situation itself, though. So, this is part of growing up, acknowledging this.
Bro, loud and clear. Have you ever been in an open relationship?
Not officially. Meaning, sometimes you have this situation with a person where y'all don't really care to put a title on what y'all have. And so, you can do what you can do. Then you get to a point where it's like, this is what I'm gonna do, despite what you're gonna do. So for example, I'm only rocking with you. I'm not dictating trying to dictate what you do, but I'm only rocking with you before it gets to a point where you become exclusive. So I've been in that type of situation, but not an official open relationship where we have the conversation of we are primaries and we have a host of secondaries. No.
I don't know, I just heard like I had, funny enough, like 2 friends of mine going through that recently. It just sounded like, it sounded very strenuous on them, like it really drained them. No, one of them it drained, the other one was actually kind of enthusiastic about it. But he's not in it yet, he's like discussing it.
Yeah. It depends on what you mean when you say open relationship. Sometimes it's almost like a community of people dating each other. Like 2 people in a relationship as primaries, and then they actually date other people. They don't just sleep with them, they date them. And then after a while, it can kind of seem like a group dating situation. Right? That's one type of open relationship. And then there's 2 people who are committed to one another in every way except sexually. And it doesn't mean that they date other people, they just have sex with other people. You know, I'd imagine for some people it's draining, for other people, depending on what type of relationship you have, it may not be.
Bro, I wouldn't know. It's just, I'm not in it. I'm not close to being in it. But I also wouldn't want to be in it, as far as I know. And I think I know. I'm not one of those people that I gotta try it before I know it. I think it's pretty.
It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something that people throw around so often. It's like, oh, you don't know if you like it or you don't like it until you tried it. I'm good.
That can mean a lot of things also. Well, not a lot, but a few things. A couple things. You can like the idea of something and not actually like the reality of it. Or vice versa. You can like the reality of something and not like the idea that you're doing it. A lot of drug addicts may not like the idea that they're addicted to a drug, but they like the drug. So it's not only what feels good, but it's also what's good for you. And that's with anything that provides pleasure.
Yeah. How much of a role does that play in like trying to change your behavior? Looking at like the pleasure part of things.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like for instance, you like going out a lot, but you wanna get focused, but you get such pleasure from the nightlife. How do you take that into account when trying to change your behavior, trying to change your direction of like, what do you seek out?
Perhaps you can start with the question of, are you really ready for change, or are you trying to force change? Do you want to do something differently just because you think it's time to, or you feel it's time to? You're actually ready for it. And if you're ready, then it's how much control do you have? Like, is the nightlife controlling you, or are you controlling it? And you learn that through delayed gratification. Can I not do this for a month? Can I not do it for 6 months? Can I disappear for a year? If the answer to that is yes, then perhaps you're controlling it, and maybe it may be a little easier for you to make a shift. But if it's controlling you, then that's likely to be a very different process.
Do you think that when you said just now to change, are you forcing it, or are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Does that also tie into changing proactively and reactively, or is that a different territory?
Hmm. You can change proactively and be ready. You can also change reactively and be ready.
So then the force part is more of it being from external factors instead of being from within.
Is there a shift that happened internally? If isn't, then you're forcing it. If nothing is going on, but there's a shift that happens internally that makes you say, hey, I'm going to change my life. You're proactively changing your life. It wasn't influenced by anything external. If something external happens and it instantly changes you, and you say, I want to change my life, that's still not forced because it actually shifted you. If something happens on the outside and nothing shifts internally, but solely because this thing that happened on the outside, solely because of it, you want to change your life, that's force. It's not real.
Could you give an example of the first and second?
Yes. So, if I decide, if I'm going throughout life, for example, a simple example, I used to love ice cream. Like, love ice cream. Even though I'm lactose intolerant. Like, I used to love dairy ice cream. And I loved it so much that I would buy it sometimes 3, 4, 5 days in a row, about a pint, and eat it. 2 pints in one day. That's how much I loved it. It destroyed my stomach for the rest of the day, but I loved this that much. Years went by with me doing this. And then it eventually got to a point where, and I was very young. That's why I was able to do this, right? I was very young, I was very athletic, and of course, thankfully I had good genetics. So, when I say I was doing this 3 days, 4 days in a row, I was 14, 15 years old doing this. By the time I got to about 24, 25, I started slowing down with ice cream, but I didn't notice it. Right? Because when I ate ice cream, it was usually a binge. That's why I would do it 3, 4, 5 days in a row. Right? It wasn't like I did that every week. Right? But when I was younger, yes, I did it more frequently. So I may skip 2, 3 weeks and then I was back to doing it. Right? As I aged, the spaces in between me actually binging on ice cream became longer. Until it got to a point where one day I looked inside my fridge, or my freezer rather, and it was 5 pints of butter pecan Haagen-Dazs ice cream in a row. None of them had been open. I didn't touch one of them. I would come home every day, say I want ice cream, go to the store, buy it, get home, put it in the freezer, and not think about it again. To the point where I forgot I had it. That's why I would buy another one and buy another one. That would have never happened when I was 14 years old, 15 years old. It's likely that the ice cream wouldn't have even made it to the house while we opened it. But something shifted internally that said, I think I'm kind of done with ice cream. Every now and again, I have it. I enjoy it when I have it. But rarely would you find it in the house. Right? That was something that shifted internally. It wasn't forced by anything. Nothing happened that made me say, I want to stop eating ice cream. Thankfully. It was an internal shift. That made me say, I didn't even have to think about it. I was just done with it. Right? So that's an example of it being honest, a real shift internally. Me having to force things is me saying, I'm going to start stretching before I exercise. I told myself that for years. I did it incorrectly because it wasn't a sincere feeling. It was just a thought. It was something that I understood cognitively that it was a good idea to stretch before I started exercising. typically I would only do it if I felt like it. And sometimes even feeling like it, I didn't do it. I wasn't consistent with it. Until something shifted internally that said, I'm ready to do it. And then I did it. Without having to prime myself to do it. Right. I just said, this is what I want to do moving forward. And I started doing it. And even in taking my first break and stretching after I really committed to it, I took a break because I didn't want to hurt myself and I had some soreness that wasn't going away. I still felt obligated to do it. I didn't do it, but I felt obligated to do it. And now that I'm actually feeling better, I'm doing it again. Right? I don't have any pain that's making me say, hey, I should stretch. So, in the beginning, when I was saying I was going to do it, I was forcing it. It didn't work. But then when there was an internal shift, I knew that I was ready to do it. And since then, I've been consistent. So those are two light examples.
I wish I could pinpoint where that comes from, that internal shift.
It comes from you. How did you know you wanted to grow your hair? You had short hair your whole life. You've been growing your hair for years now. It wasn't like a fad. The fad is over. Everybody cut their hair. Why do you still have locks? Something shifted. Why do you go to the gym? Your friends aren't going. So it's not a communal activity. Something shifted in you that made you say, I want to go to the gym. For whatever reason. The source of the shift is you. It doesn't necessarily come from, it doesn't have to come from an external occurrence or group think. You can think for yourself and decide for yourself what direction you want to take your life into. And there's plenty of examples in your life that demonstrate that. These are just two light examples. The other source.
Maybe what I was better I could have said was like, I want to pinpoint what it is inside of me. But maybe just me as a whole.
Or it's the identity that you're learning about on the subconscious level. That you think you are on a conscious level, but that your subconscious is showing you aren't. It's consciously, we get intel from society that tells us who we should be on a consistent basis. Oftentimes what deters us from that is it doesn't feel real for us. Where does that come from? That comes from the subconscious informing you that this thing that's happening in society that's making an attempt at informing your conscious mind doesn't really represent who you are. And because the subconscious mind is that much stronger than the conscious mind, we tend to lean toward the subconscious.
Can that also hinder you when you're trying to grow in a certain way?
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Your subconscious is where your beliefs come from. You could be trying to grow in a certain way, but you don't believe that you can. You have limiting beliefs. There's nothing wrong with having limiting beliefs. But there is something wrong with defending the limiting beliefs. But we learn to defend the limiting beliefs because on a subconscious level, we also have an identity. And we want to justify that identity. And the root of what created that identity was developed during our formative years. So that's the tape recorder that's playing in the background on repeat. So even though you have these fleeting thoughts and some of them break through, most of them don't, beyond the surface. And because of that, we tend to revert back to that subconscious, back to those limiting beliefs, if they're limiting. Not everyone has the same limiting beliefs. And I'd imagine if you have some people with only limiting beliefs, then it's also possible to have people who don't have any limiting beliefs. So I don't want to give the connotation that, I don't want to imply that the subconscious is negative. It doesn't, it's not negative. It just is. And you can put things in it that empower you, or you can put things in it that limit you. Beliefs. When I say things, I mean beliefs.
Yeah, that's dope. But how do you first off, how do you identify limiting beliefs?
Pay attention to your actions.
Could you
And your thoughts. What do you think about? What do you think about what you think about? And what do you think about what you think about that you think about? And that can keep going. Thinking about this thought, that, then think about what you think about that thought, etc. And the more you can do that, the more you can understand yourself. Because ego even protects us from us, not just the outward. It also is trying to manage how we feel about ourselves internally. And your brain is designed to survive. So inadvertently, it's designed to help you like yourself so that you don't kill yourself. So you, as much as we think we can't lie to ourselves, we can. We can lie to ourselves. So the objective is to find the lie. Keep asking questions until you find the lie. And be honest enough with yourself to acknowledge the lie when you find it. And not be egotistical to the point where you try to label something as a lie that's not actually a lie. Because you're either trying to speed up the process or not change something that on the surface may seem as if it's serving you, but in fact it's been hurting you. But you created your identity around it. Like pain. You can create an identity around pain. hurt the person.
Yeah, you see that a lot. You see that, I see that because people always post the same type of quotes and memes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the following that they're gonna, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Just the whole community based on negative self-talk, but like putting a funny spin on it.
That's, we see it in the kind of movies we like. Do you like dark films? Or do you like romantic comedies? What kind of comedians do you? What kind of comedians make you laugh? It's not always what you relate to, because you can relate to, well, it's not what you readily relate to based on your experiences. It could be what you readily relate to based on your imagination.
So once you find the lie, then what?
What happens when you have a conversation with someone and you notice that they're lying to you? Someone that you care about. Someone that you refuse to walk away from. It's the same thing with yourself. If I care about myself and I refuse to walk away from myself, and I find that there's an inner version of myself, chances are the child within, that's telling the adult a lie, or vice versa. And we seek the truth. And once we find the truth, we want to live our lives through that truth.